Okay, hello. Hello everyone. So I'm going to start now. Today is continuation of this Monday's live that got cut too short. I haven't actually painted, so at least there's that. Okay, so if you didn't get a chance to see the reference photo or the line drawing, I provided one in the event. So you'll find it there. But if you can't find the event, or if you can't find it, just let me know and I can share it to you. So let me just look for the photo now. Okay, so this is the reference photo that I'll be using. Okay, so this is the dahlia. Okay, so I figured it's a beautiful flower. You only need two colors, I think, except on the flower itself. For the background, it's up to you if you want to do the background or just leave it white. You can leave it white, there's no problem with that. But you can also do the background if you want. You can follow what you see in the photo because it actually looks really nice and doesn't take away from the flower itself. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so I'll just have my reference photo here to the side. I will be using colors from the Allegro palette. Okay, so the Allegro palette is the one with all the warm colors. Okay, so this is from Zenart Supplies. Okay, so here is the swatch card with all the colors. As you can see, lots of warm colors. And here is the actual palette. Okay, so heavily used. Okay, so if you like to paint florals, and other brightly themed subjects, then this palette is really perfect because, as you saw earlier, it has a lot of different yellows and reds, and it even has the bright upper rose pink. Okay, so I've already pre-sketched the dahlia. Okay, so it's sketch-wise, it seems like it's so detailed. So if you don't like to sketch, just find the line drawing that I gave, and you can trace it, or you can use it as a guide. But if you have the sketch down, it will make your painting process much easier. Okay, so I'm going to flip the camera down now, and you'll see my sketch and the desk. Okay, let me just, all right. And then let me flip this around. All right, so here's the sketch. It's this big, not too small, so that it's not too hard as well to paint it. Okay, so if you like to work small, of course, go ahead. You can paint as small as you want. All right, so again, I'll be using a mixing plate and then colors from the Allegro. Okay, so I will definitely use the upper rose and the carmine. Okay, so these two for sure. And then to deepen the colors, I will add maybe a bit of purple. Let's see. Okay, so I try not to use brown directly because sometimes it just muddies the color. So instead I use a color like purple to darken the pink. So it's quite similar and it's much more harmonious color-wise. Hi, Linda. Thank you for joining again. Okay, so let's start then. Since we are already here, let me zoom in a bit since it's pretty far up, so I can still zoom in. Let's see. Okay, that's better. All right, so we'll start with just a light wash. So I'm going to use a chunkier brush so I can cover a large section. Okay, so I'll drop in some water here. Okay, and then just a dash of the pink. So again, you can always test this out in a separate piece of paper. If you're unsure as to how deep the color is or not, you can always test it out. Okay, so just a very, very pale wash, like so. Okay, so you just want the first layer to just give the flower a general pinkish color. Okay, but not till the tips. Okay, so try to keep the tips of the outermost petals not too covered with pink. Okay, so let's do that. Let's start from here so that we can keep an eye out on the petals here. Okay. So remember, if you feel like, oh gosh, I think it's a bit too pink, don't worry. It will dry lighter, so don't panic yet. And if you're gonna do the background, then you won't also need to stress about staying within the petals because the background is darker, so it will cover all the painting that you did outside of your sketch. And again, if you don't like to see the line drawing in your final work, then I suggest you erase a bit before you color. Okay, so here I'm trying to just the tip, not coloring the tip. Okay, so just relax when you do this. Doesn't have to be super the same as the photo. Okay, so you'll see that there's a light pinkish wash. Okay, that's what you want. Okay, and already the paper is curling a bit. That's fine. We're done with our first wash, and so we can use a blow dryer to hasten the drying time, which I will. Okay. Right, so that was a bit longer because it was a wet wash. Okay, so it's not super dry, there's a bit of dampness, but that's fine. Okay, so next we'll do a layer of darker pink now. Okay, as usual, you can just, okay, I'm just adjusting my my reference photo. Okay, let me just, I couldn't see it because the lights are dimming it. Okay, there you go. All right, so what we'll do now is we'll add a lot of the pink that we had earlier. I'm gonna stick with this brush because I don't want to be too detailed. I'm trying to keep it realistic but not hyper realistic. Okay, so we'll start with the upper rose right here, which is a really, really vibrant pink. Okay, so if you don't have it, you can, I think quinacridone magenta is also a good substitute. So just look at your colors and you'll probably have some sort of pinkish red and you can use that. Okay, so I'm adding a lot because I want it to be really deep like the photo. Okay, so I'll start from the center and work outwards. Okay, so I'll start with here. So what I do is I add there in several areas following the shape of the petal. Okay, so just follow the shape of the petal. curve it. Okay, add water to your brush and then pull it outwards. Okay, so here too. Okay, so here, I don't mind if it dries a bit before I do this because again, I want the texture. Okay, you actually want texture here so that your flowers don't look too flat. Okay, so just be careful because you want to, again, keep the tips very pale. So it's very concentrated color at the base of the petal, and then as it moves towards the tips, it becomes really pale. Hello from Malaysia. Thank you for joining. Awesome. Okay, so don't worry if you pulled it too outwards, you can lift it. Okay, as while it's still wet, lift it and try to remove it. If it's really too pink, if it's too dark, we can always use Go Wash to lighten the tips later. Okay, so there's always some way to save things, so don't stress. Okay, so we'll just go through all the petals and add the deeper colors, and then later we can always add purple to our mix and add the even deeper shadowed areas. Okay, for now let's just add pink to all the petals at the base, and then again pull it outwards. If there's too much intense color, rinse your brush. It's actually just quite repetitive. Okay, what you do for the petals will be just the same, basically. The only difference is some petals have deeper shadows, so they will have a more intense color, and some lighter, but the same principle of darker base and softening towards tips. Okay, so just try to check your sketch and see which areas you need to keep white and such so you don't cover it. Like here, there's a tip of the petal here, so I'm trying to paint around it so I don't lose the white. Okay, so just go around. So when the challenge, of course, when they're all the same is you get lost, like where am I exactly already? So just take your time. So I'm also trying to keep this part white because it's very crisp and white. And if you want, you can already start to add some purple. Maybe it will help you not be lost. Okay, so you can create on a separate area your mix of a deeper pink and purple. And you can already start to add, like here. So again, you don't have to be copying your photo exactly the same, okay? Just get the general shape and texture and colors. And if you need to darken things, just wait for the previous layer to dry and then you can darken it. Okay, so here I already added the pink with the purple mix to give that deeper shadows. Okay, so that's what I do when I need darker areas. I try to find a mix that doesn't immediately involve adding brown or black to my mixture, so it doesn't come out muddy. Okay, so try to not go towards that mixing of brown immediately. I'm sure there are some ways to achieve the darker colors without going and using brown or black. Okay, so you can already see once you add the shadows, it makes more sense. Okay, so I'm going to add it here as well. This is a very shadowed area. So I want to get it down so that it also helps me see where I'm working. Okay, so if you like to not be stuck in the details, try to use a chunkier brush, and it will be harder to do detailed works. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to use a chunkier brush. Okay, sometimes I feel like it's too dark, so I'm gonna go and get a different brush and use that to lift the color off. Usually flat brushes are great for lifting things off. Okay, so now the center is coming together. Again, you don't have to do it too realistically. So I'm going to add more color here, more intensity. Okay, next. So just go around until you reach the last petals. Okay, so very easy, very repetitive. What you need will be patience to finish it all. Because of course, when things are repetitive, sometimes they can be boring maybe for you. So again, you don't have to finish this in one sitting. So if you haven't been touching your pinks, then this is the perfect time. I've also done a peony before, so you might also want that if you want to paint more pinks. And of course, the cherry blossom, the sakura. Okay, so as you can see, some of the petals are not flat out like that. You actually, most of the petals of the dahlia, they're formed like so. So you will see the underside. If you see it from an angle, it's pale, and then the inside is deep. Okay, so just try to check your reference photo so that you can continue adding those details. So this is the underside where it's pink turning white, and here is the inner part with the pink also becoming white. So a lot of going back and forth to your water, because you start with a concentrated pink and then you rinse it off so that you can lighten it. Okay, and again, you don't have to follow your reference exactly. If you get stuck in trying to match things perfectly, it's hard to finish a work that you will like. Okay, so try to think of it as just really a reference. Okay, so now I'm going to work down here. So during your first two layers, everything will just look like they're blending together. Okay, the magic happens when you start to add more shadows. Then you can also start to tell apart the different petals. So here I'm starting to add them here and there so that I can already pinpoint the areas. Just adding more pink to my mixture. Okay, and I'm down here. Let's just check if I'm working on the right one. Okay, so this is very pale, so I'll just add a dash of pink here where I see it. And then use the remaining pink from the brush. All right, and then go all around. Okay, the same thing. Oh, that's still the same color, the Opera Rose. So on the swatch, it's this one. So it's a really nice bright pink. It's a you also need some kind of bright pink at some point. So Opera Rose, Opera Pink, or Quinacridone Magenta. So that's also a nice reddish pink that you can also use for this. Okay, so you stay away from the warm reds. You want a cooler red, or actually a red that goes towards the pinkish side already. Okay, so but usually you'll find this opera, some people don't like to use it because it's not light fast, but if you're not going to sell it, or you're just going to play around, then you can use Opera Rose. But if not, maybe if you want it to be light fast and be there for a long time, then you're probably better off using Quinacridone Magenta. In my case, I'm okay. I'm not selling this or anything. So just many colors are not light fast, so at some point I guess you should try to find out which ones, so that you won't have regrets when you spend so much time on some of your works and maybe you realize, why are they fading so quickly? It's probably because they're not light fast. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your works. But if it's just for exercises, then for me it's just fine, especially if you're still learning, you know. Okay, so again, just going through all the petals quickly. So I'm not spending so much time making sure everything is exactly the same as the photo. Just as long as it looks like it's okay, then it's okay. Okay, so a lot of going back and forth the water, because again, I just apply a concentrated mixture and then I thin it down. Okay, so that's my super easy way of doing things, and it works. So far, I've done this for so many years and it works for me. Okay. Once you've gotten the hang of your water control, that's a big chunk of the learning curve that you've passed. So just keep painting, because at some point you will discover how it all works for you, and you will actually get to enjoy watercolors much better. It's always just at the start that's challenging, but really the key is just to keep painting. Okay, get past the learning curve, and when you reach the enjoyment stage, or maybe you don't have the learning curve because you actually enjoy the whole process, and that's even better. But you know, there's always going to be some subjects that will be more challenging, but that's fine. That's part of learning, right? Okay, so I'm just making sure that the shapes remain petal-like. And don't be afraid to do mixed media. Okay, so later on, if you want to use your colored pencils or maybe your pens, go ahead. Okay. Again, you'll never find out your style if you don't experiment, and we all have our own styles. Okay, so I'm going to leave this first because I don't want this section to be red. So I'm going to allow this to dry and work here. Okay, so lots of overlapping petals over here. Just making sure I'm not lost. Yes, okay, so here. So my water is actually quite pink now. Okay, what else? Here too. Okay, so try to use a chunky brush like me so that I don't get bogged down in the little details, because that's really, I always get stuck. I try to paint too detailed. But today I'm trying to not get too focused on the small details. So chunky brush. And the nice thing about painting flowers, petals, is that even though you don't paint 100% of the paper, even if there are spots of white, it's totally fine. It actually adds to the interest. So if I have spots of white here and there, I actually like them. Makes it look more interesting. Okay, so I'm just checking the areas that have really a big concentration of dark pink. Okay, so that I can cover them. So this is really a very easy way of shading your flower petals. You'll go back and forth to your water, to your paper towel and such, but you'll get to do things pretty quickly and very effectively. Okay, so there's a dark section here. This is the curve of the petal. Okay, so as long as you keep doing that, it's gonna come out looking like a dahlia. So already I like it. Even though you're working quickly, it's still looking effective. So again, you don't really need to do much detail, or not as detailed as, let's say, like when I did the peony, but still it looks like a dahlia. So let's try to learn together how to how to be more relaxed when painting. So we all have our own challenges, and mine is, again, trying to let go of all the details. I have a hard time letting go of the details. But I now see the magic in, oh, this is cold press. Okay, so it's perfect because I'm not aiming to do a hyper detailed work. So cold press, this is cut from a bigger size paper. So I also I have different size paper so that I can cut whichever size I want. Some people actually prefer to buy rolls because they can cut it into whatever size they wish, but still have big sized works. So I don't paint really big, so I have pads. Okay, so this is 300 GSM cold pressed. So it curves a bit when it's very wet, but that's it. It doesn't curl like so, just a bit of curving, which will happen to all watercolor paper that's not thicker than 300 GSM. Yes. Each petal is really hard to layer and layer, which is why I do this style of mine, that I just apply the color intensely and then I just go to my water, rinse, and just pull it. This is my shortcut way of filling in the layers quickly, because otherwise it will take so long. You can also, of course, do that, especially if you're aiming to paint hyper realistically. Then you should do it layer by layer. But if you're fine with this method of mine, then you can just do this. And it feels like you did several layers when in fact it's just the second layer and you're just pulling color. Okay, so this is my way of doing things that is sort of effective. And you just need to add the deeper shadows later on, once you're done with this layer all over. But as usual, the more layers you do with watercolor, the better it's going to come out at the end. Okay, so, and again, you don't have to finish it in one sitting like me. So you can actually take your time and enjoy the entire process. Okay, so don't be in a hurry. Of course, I will finish mine during the live, except for the background. But you take your time, okay? Enjoy it. Take breaks, have a cup of tea or coffee or a glass of wine, whichever you prefer. And don't forget to add the textures of the petals. Okay, the more texture that you do with your strokes, with your water and pigment, the better it's going to look like. Okay, so here I'm just adding a shadow under each petal softly, because it's not very dark. Okay, and just like that, we're almost there, amazingly. Okay, so if you're not too attached to the little tiny details, you'll get to finish things much quicker, and it still looks like a dahlia. So try to experiment the different ways that you can paint. You can do realistic, of course, because it's always good to learn that too, but you can also do a more relaxed realistic, especially if you're not really keen on painting as detailed as me, for example. Maybe you're a more fluid painter, who knows? So you try things out so that you can find your own style. Okay, basically I'm just showing you my version of doing things so that it can help start you off and, you know, try things out, and then eventually you'll get to discover your own style, which is what we all really want, right? We want to have our own style of doing things, our own voice. When I teach my little kids, my little students, I always say, you know, if you want your clouds to be purple, why not? So I don't really dictate how things should be, because, you know, our own creativity is really special. And I really agree with the saying that kids are the best artists. They really are. Sometimes I'm quite envious. Kids are just so amazing with the things that they think of painting. Amazing. Okay, so now I'm adding a bit of the carmine right here, because there is a very deep red petal. So I'm trying to get that mix, sort of. Let's see if I can get it. Okay, so carmine, a bit of the purple, just to deepen it. Okay, so add it sparingly, and then let's use it for the petals here. So a bit too deep, so let me add some more red. Okay, so just there's two petals here overlapping each other. That's a deep red. So I'm going to add that. Okay. And then for the one under, I'm going to add more purple. Because of course this one is on top, so the one at the bottom will be in shadow. So it should be darker. Okay, like so. And there you have it. I'll just add a dash of pink here so it's not too white. Okay, and let me just check things out. Okay, so this is actually quite staining color. So just be careful on backgrounds. Oh, bokeh. Okay, let's well, why don't we try that? Yes, we can try bokeh, but I'll probably need to prepare several squares of it because it's really in layers, bokeh. But yes, it's actually an interesting effect to do and can be used as really soft and interesting backgrounds. So yes, nice suggestion, Linda. Let's do that next week. Let's do a class on just bokeh for backgrounds. Okay, so let's see, where am I? Okay, so we will now, I miss these two, see? Sometimes your eye just goes past some petals. So always good to just have a look through things. Okay, so now I'm just going to check if I need to add more shadow or I'm good. Okay, so right now it's nice. I like it. It's just very light. But again, you can always add more shadow if you need to, if you want to. So let me just quickly do it here, in these areas where it's really, really very deep. Okay, but be careful because you don't want it to overwhelm your work. So just do it in layers. So here I'm just checking where I see the deeper colors are, just to balance things out. And again, it's always good to just soften the edges. Okay, you don't want hard-edged anything on your petals as much as possible unless you really see it. It's just like when drawing people or painting people. Unless you see a hard line, don't do it. Okay, it's gonna age your subject really, really quickly, and especially when you do portraits, not everybody actually wants to be portrayed realistically. So you don't have to draw all the wrinkles, all the lines, okay? Just a suggestion is more than enough. So even if you see that the neck is very wrinkled, or you don't have to draw every single line. So try to edit. Okay, so portraiture is such a delicate subject. Honestly, not everybody will is open to seeing all the wrinkles, even if they did ask you to do their portrait. Okay, so I'm happy with this. I like it. I hope I hope you like it too. But I like the effect. I like the delicacy of the petals. And now I'll just add the green of the stem and some of the leaves that are showing through. Okay, so you can mix your green if you want. Okay, so let's see. You have your I'm going to mix two kinds of yellow. Okay, so the yellow deep and also the lemon yellow. And then with phthalo blue. Okay, so this one you can also do in layers. Okay, so you can just first paint in your mid green. As usual, I really like to work in layers because it really gives your work the depth that it needs. If you just go and use one dark green, it's going to look flat. So try to always work in 2 or 3 layers at least. Okay, so patience is key. So check all the parts where you see green peeping through, because that will also balance the pink of your work. Well, this is actually green, so I'm going to paint over this. Okay, and once you have that, let it dry, or you can use a blow dryer. Dry it quickly, and then add your darker green. Okay, so basically I'm just using one brush from start to finish, except for the filbert flat, just to lift off some areas. But with one brush you can already, with one nice round brush, you can do so much. Okay, so I'm going to add more phthalo green now to deepen the color. Okay. And again, you can always test it out and see if you like it. It's a bit too dark green, so I'm going to add a bit of yellow deep. Okay, so I'm using yellow deep because the color that I'm seeing is not a bright green but a more muted green. So if you want more muted green, then use a warmer yellow. Okay, so I'll probably need another layer because it's quite deep. But again, working in layers will make it look more solid. Okay, and again, dry it quickly. Okay, and now I'm going to get some of the olive green right here to give it that even darker, more muted color. Okay, perfect. Okay, but not all over, because in some areas some of the light touches the stem, so you will have sections that are more in shadow and sections that are lighter. Okay, so just try to quickly see where they are in your leaves and such. So again, work in layers and you'll get the depth that you're aiming for without having to scrub and just layer in one go, which is really not effective. Okay, so have the patience to just layer until you get what you're aiming for. Okay, so here it's looking really nice and deep, so I'm going to add some more blue. Okay, let's add a bit of blue, a touch of blue, just for the very shadowed areas, like here. Stretching a bit down, and here too. Okay, so color mix, always color mix. You don't really need a ton of colors. If you do color mixing, you will be able to have so many colors without having to buy all of them. Okay, we have a video of that already, so you'll find it in our older videos, how to create your own color mixing chart if you want to. If you want to see what colors you can make from the colors you already have. Thank you for joining as well. I hope you learned something. Okay, so this is done, or done for tonight, as what as I can finish in one go. And as always, I always look at it the next day and see what else I can improve, or if it's all good. What I can see is I can probably add a bit of the red, for example, the carmine, this red here. Okay, so I can mix some of it with the pink, and for some areas in shadow, I can add it. Add more interest to the color. You can see already. Okay, but be careful, don't overdo it. So just in the more intense sections, you add this carmine, and it gives your petals just a stain of the bright red, or bright cool red. Okay, so make sure you're using a bright cool red. Don't use warm, because it will battle against the bright pink. Okay, so this is carmine layered on top of the opera pink. Just for the sections that are very intense with deeper shadows. Okay, so again, tomorrow I will see if I want to add it all over or not, or wherever else. But for now, you can see the difference. This is more intense in color, so it also differentiates it from the softer petals at the bottom. Okay, so I hope that was clear. I hope you can do this and try it out, because it's such a beautiful flower, really. I love it. When I saw a photo of the dahlia, it's perfect. It's a summer flower. So let me now go back to my face. I'm gonna flip this around and say goodbye to you guys. Okay, let me just twist this back up. Okay, so thank you for joining me. And again, this is the dahlia. Okay, so enough background for me to fill in if I want to, but you can always leave it as is as well, and you can always frame it smaller, up to you. Okay, so you'll find the reference photo again in the event. I shared it there, along with the line drawing to help you out if you don't like sketching so much, and this has a lot of lines. So you can use that for tracing, or you can use it as a guide. You can do the grid if you want. It will really help. So this is it, and I hope you try it out. And if you do, please do share your work. I really love seeing your own versions of the things that I show. Okay, so thank you for joining me, and sorry for Monday's weirdness, but here we are, and the dahlia is done, and I hope to see you on the next one, Monday, which is bokeh, that Linda has suggested. So bokeh backgrounds. So you will see the process of how you can do the bokeh effect, which is also, it can be great on its own and also perfect for backgrounds. Okay, bye guys, and see you next time.